Hello and welcome to Murder Analysed. I'm Christina Moore. Today's case is the case of Shana Grice, a 19-year-old from Sussex, England. The murder took place on 25th of August 2016, and her murderer was Michael Lane, 27 at the time when he did these murders. Now, Michael Lane, it's not your typical stalker. Now, I don't know if you've looked at the other case before, but when we talk about stalkers, we usually sort of categorise them into different categories, really. So, by the traits they use and why they stalk, what makes them stalk. Well, with Michael Lane, at first look, you would think he's this rejected stalker, so the rejection of the end of the relationship then made him become this stalker and murderer. You know, this loss that he couldn't control and this sort of thing. But when you look further in to Michael Lane, he was more than that. He had previous, anyway, for a lot of different things. He was actually a predator. So we have stalkers that can be predators. This man was a mixture of the two, because he wasn't just a stalker and a predator. He was a predator and a groomer of young children. And then I think 12 other related cases then came forward when he was then charged with this murder. Because, as I've said before, when we're talking about the grooming of young children, 12, 13, 14 years old, they won't come forward. And this Michael Lane was very good at what he did. He liked to groom kids by texts, and he took certain jobs and certain voluntary jobs to get himself closer to young girls. They worked at the same place in Brighton, this fire alarm place they worked in, and she met him there. She'd only really been with him for about a year, and I think it was on and off, but she had been with him for about a year, and he was already had this controlling personality and this controlling behaviour. Wanted to know where she was, what she was doing. So the things that a typical jealous stalker would already do in a relationship. And when that relationship ended, a few months before she died, he then got really, really upset and jealous. And he started then to follow her, constantly text her, ring her, withheld numbers, silent, this heavy breathing stuff they do. And then he also, though, tracked her car. So he put a tracker on her car and then had the app on his phone. So he knew everywhere she was going. In this midst of all this, Shana then went back to her ex-boyfriend, the previous boyfriend, and they really got on well. Now, Shana lived in this bungalow in Brighton with some friends. She was working, and on the morning of the 25th of August, her previous boyfriend, who she was now back with, very happily back with, even though she was being stalked and everything else, had stayed over. He'd gone to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. He kissed her goodbye on the doorstep. He then went to work. She went in. That was the last time he saw her alive. What people didn't know, I think, at the time, was that her car was being tracked, but also that Michael Lane was sitting outside watching everything. So he knew when everyone had left that home, the boyfriend had gone to work, everyone else had gone to work, Shana was getting ready to go to work, and she never made it. He let himself in that home. He walked into her bedroom, he slit her throat, and then he tried to set the bedroom on fire. And then he leaves for a short time. Then he comes back. You see, he wants to find the body. So he said he found the body by accident. He came in because he was watching, as he's admitted being a stalker, and when she didn't leave for work, he got worried. This is Michael Lane. Got worried, entered the house, and found Shana slumped across the bed with her throat slit, blood everywhere. She was in her dressing gown. And then he thought, well, I can't report it. So then he leaves again. He goes home, has a shower, and then goes to check his lottery ticket. A little while later, when Shana doesn't turn up for work and things are going on, this boyfriend, the boyfriend she's with, his father, then finds the body and sets off the alarm. Now, later on that day, Michael Lane was arrested on the suspicion of her murder. So that's sort of the outer case, I suppose you could say. Because with this case, Shana had already reported her stalking and this behaviour from Michael Lane over the last few months to the Sussex Police. Now, so Sussex Police, at first, when she first made a complaint, because I think Michael Lane stole her phone, and then he pulled her hair and stuff, and she reported it to the police. But she wasn't with him at that time. But what the police did, they then said to her, you're wasting police time because you're in a relationship with him. And they actually fined her money for wasting their time. Now, what are you then saying then to this predator? Because yes, they've spoke to him, but she's come across, hasn't she, as not the victim, but as the perpetrator. They find her, this 19-year-old, quite naive, trying to continually complain about this man and this behaviour, the phone calls, the abuse, everything she was getting from this man, including him tracking her car, knowing wherever she went. You're trying to get some help from the police, and really then they're going to find you. And I think in the last case that we did on Molly McLaren, I spoke about one of the cases, and this is the main one of these cases that really started the laws to change. But it also made clear that the police didn't have a bloody clue on what they was doing when it come to perpetrators, and they are trying to stereotype these girls for either being disgruntled girlfriends, because this is their mindset, this police at the time. And today I still think a lot of them are. I mean, the thing is with police, you need to have training put in place, which real training, proper training from victims. Because the other issue, I think, with this Michael Lane is because where he was grooming and stalking other young girls, they weren't coming forward because they're young. So there wasn't much on him, but his behaviour should have already flagged up enough to where these police officers should have listened to what was going on. And they didn't. And they say they didn't, and they have apologised for that. But an apology will not bring this girl back. Her parents have lost their daughter. Really, it's shocking, really, because when we have police officers, and we rely on police officers, and a lot of officers are really great, but if you have some that don't take it seriously, because officers are there to protect and serve, we pay their money through our taxes. So to protect and serve is to do the right thing, is to understand criminality, to understand a criminal. So yes, they're there to investigate and look, but they're not there to make a judgment on the personality or the circumstances of them crimes without really looking into them. And this is, I think, what was happening at that time. They was putting it down over to domestic abuse or this, and it was sort of brushed away like it meant nothing. But you're talking about a 19-year-old girl against a 27-year-old man who literally was going to kill her. And he did. And he told people he was going to do it. He told people that she wasn't getting away with it, that she would pay for it. And she paid for it with her life. So on the 8th, I think, of February 2016, Shana Grice complained to the police about these unwanted flowers that kept turning up. There was damage done to her car. There was all these phone calls and things. Nothing was really done. Then I think on the 24th of March, Lane, and that's when he snatched her phone, he pulled her hair and everything. And he was then arrested under suspicion of assault. But when they found out that Shana was with him, that's when she got the fine, but she wasn't really with him. She didn't disclose that she had been with him. I mean, I think you're talking about a girl now in such distress, because this is now going on for months. I mean, it starts in 8th of February and then goes on till even in July, 9th of July, when he let himself in her home and this sort of stuff. And he was constantly in this girl's life, and the police were not listening to a single thing that this girl said. And once they'd find her, and once she found they wasn't listening, she had nowhere else to go. What could she do? And so this is why I put up these things, that you can talk to someone about what to do. And the best thing to do, if the police are not listening to you, is to continue on saying it. Also then do a complaint against the police. Always take their name and their number and make a complaint. Make the complaint. Because these officers, especially in 2020 or 2021, we're about to come into, should take this stalking more seriously. And if they'd done that in the first place, this girl would still be alive. I think the last incident on this 9th of July is really telling of his acceleration of his crimes that he would be willing to commit. So he breaks into her home when they're, not, she doesn't just live in this house, other people do. She was asleep in her bed. She knew and could feel something under her covers. She could feel breathing. She didn't want to open her eyes because she didn't want to see who was there, even though she knew. She could hear the footsteps walking around, and he would sit and watch her sleep. And then when she heard him leave and walk out the front door, she looked out her window, and it was him. So he was now coming into her home, into her bedroom, into a home that she shared with other people. So I think he was cautioned for that. He was arrested, I think, on suspicion of theft, because I think he took some stuff from her, but also just told to stay away. So he's got a caution now, but he's been told to stay away. So all these things are now escalating. So this girl now knows there's nothing they're going to do. So she's now gone back to the ex-boyfriend. I think, not because she liked him, I think because he made her feel safe. And I've said in the other videos, sometimes this is the escalation that can switch it from being just the stalking to just the harassment to murder. Because he was now watching this girl, tracking this girl, seeing her with her previous boyfriend again. And the day of her murder, the boyfriend had stayed over. He saw her kiss her goodbye on the doorstep, and within that hour, she was dead. So on the 25th of August 2016, Lane was arrested. He was arrested under suspicion of murder. He lied about what he'd done, where he'd been, and about how he found the body and all this stuff. He lied. I think what he was trying to do was get the boyfriend under suspicion for the murder, because he did admit that he was watching her, and that the only reason he went into the home was because she didn't leave for work on the time she was meant to. But he also did say that he saw the boyfriend leaving the home. So he automatically tried then to, put the boyfriend in as a suspect. It didn't work. It really didn't work. And it's the way he done it. And I said to him, well, why, when you found the body, didn't you ring the police? Or he said, well, I thought you was going to blame me. Well, why didn't you go and tell somebody else? Why did you go and buy a lottery ticket? I mean, the whole thing with this man's personality is disturbing anyway. But then when we come now to after the case, when things start, or when the case is going on, when his picture's out and things have come out about him, you know, his personality is that of a predator. You know, let's talk about these previous complaints, because there was a lot of them. And I don't know how this man got away with it really, because Sussex police also revealed that Michael Lane had been subject to complaints of 13 other women. 13, not just one. 13 other women. He'd had complaints put forward against him by 13 different women. Most of the complaints related to about 3 years prior to him, to the murder. So 3 years. Except for the one that allegedly occurred about 10 years previously. So he'd been doing this for a long time. So if it was 10 years previously, he would have been 16, 17 at the time when he first started to stalk and groom women and children. That's what they were saying. Oh, it's so young. So this man was a dangerous predator from very young. So when we look at the domestic homicide review, because there needed to be a review in this case, and the police actually have done quite a good review. They self-referred themselves for investigation, and they done the right thing, because the thing is, when you're trying to solve crimes or prevent crimes like this, education on the mindset of these people, and also on the mindset of the victims, because of the pressure they're under, these police needed to be more trained, and they recognise that. So there is something good there that come out of it. But as I say, I wouldn't say we have the best yet in the world, but I think we are getting there. You know, we'll see. So in 2006, it was turned out that between 2006 and 2016, he had harassed 12 women in that time. He had also groomed this 14-year-old girl at the time, when he had been arrested over claims that he had groomed this girl. He had not been charged over the 2010 grooming. Why? You know, there's no difference. If 2010 to 2000, that's 10 years ago. Yes, we knew what grooming was then, but again, it wasn't being taken as seriously as what we know that grooming can turn into today. Grooming is an escalation. You're going to have the grooming, then you're going to have the contact. And if you have the contact, you're going to have the act. If you have the act, you're either going to have a sexual act of penetration, or you're going to have a murder. And I think now we've worked that out. But I think in 2010, I think they still should have looked into this. This girl was only 14. So it wasn't great, really, you know, even then. And he would have been 17 at the time. But he was still grooming this girl, this 14-year-old girl. So he wasn't charged over that. It was marked on his record, but it wasn't then flagged up when all these other girls and all this, and Shana was then complaining about him. It just wasn't flagged up. So I said about this, a lot of these groomers and paedophiles, and that's what he is. If you're going to try and groom young girls, and you know you're older, and she was only 14, and probably a young 14, but what he then did, you see, was these predators try to influence and infiltrate groups, and where there is children, so they might volunteer, and he volunteered, I think, with the Scouts. So at the time when he was trying to groom and all these other cases of harassment that he was having, you know, he was the Scout leader. He was volunteering as the Scout leader, trying to get himself involved with children, young children, so that he could groom them. That then put him in contact with other groups and things of young girls and different things like that. So he used his voluntary work as his access to children, as many predators do. So this man, this is why I said to you, this man is not just a stalker that we would say a stalker of rejection. He didn't just become a stalker because he was rejected. He didn't do these things because he was rejected. He'd done these things because he was a predator, and he would have killed in the end anyway. Unfortunately for Shana, she was the one that he murdered. He went to court about a year later, and he was sentenced. I think within 2 hours the jury found him guilty of murder, and he's got the life sentence with a minimum of 25 years. But as I always say, a stalker, a predator, a paedophile, because we now know what he is, doesn't change. And again, 25 years, yes, I know it's the maximum sentence in this country that we can give. But, you know, when will we learn in this country that these people, you can't reform them. They're not going to come out any different. He was 28 when he went to prison. He's going to do a minimum of 25 years. Again, still young enough when he comes out to re-offend. So this is a shocking case, really, because this young girl tried everything to get some help. She was being stalked, she was being harassed, she had a stalker in her bedroom at night, watching her sleep, touching her in her sleep. She told the police. They was, yes, he was looked at, yes, he was arrested, yes, he was cautioned, but is it enough? Would it be enough today with these new laws out, this domestic, homicide new laws, because it's about, again, the psychological damage, not just the physical damage that these people may cause? I don't think we're there yet. This was only 1 year before the Molly McLaren case. 1 year before. Not much had changed. The difference is with Molly's, I think, was the 12 days between the split up and the murder. But I think with Shana's case, it highlights the need for education, the need for you to be aware of what's out there to help you. If you are being stalked, if you are being harassed by these people that think it's all right for them to do that to you. And I think what these videos are about is to make you aware of your rights. Literally, you have rights under the law now to make sure that these men get what they deserve. And if the police won't help you, and I'll put other things up at different agencies that will help you, keep their evidence, every phone call, everything. Keep every bit of evidence, because in the end now, these men can be prosecuted. So I know it's another case, and there's many more of these coming up with the different traits and different characters of these stalkers. This man wasn't just a stalker. This man was a predator. And luckily, he was caught, because you wouldn't want this man out. So anyway, this has been the case of Shana Grice, and shocking case. And I think her mum and dad have just lost another High Court battle over this. They're fighting, and I don't know if they're going to reappeal or appeal the decision. But I think whatever we can do to make people aware of this going on, this sort of stalking, this sort of behaviour, and to stop these young girls being murdered, is we've got to try everything. And so this is why I'm doing this range of stalking murder videos. So anyway, I hope you found this case interesting. Have a look at the information that I put up there. If you do need any assistance with, if you're being stalked, go to your police, keep your evidence, You can also go to other agencies I put up here for help, but get help. You can't do this alone. So, you know what to do. Thumbs up if you like this case. You can subscribe to on the logo that Lacey puts up there. You can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. So until the next time, thanks for watching. Bye bye.